We're back with a brand new episode of the Around the Grounds podcast. As always, presented and brought to you by Groundhopper Soccer Guides. I'm your host, Brian Reinhart. Joining me, founder, owner, the man who does a lot, Groundhopper Soccer Guides, Paul Gerald. Paul, how have you been lately? It's been a couple weeks since we did one of these.
It has. And yeah, I've been good. I haven't been to any games, though, except for terrible Portland Timbers games, which they keep losing. So I need to get back overseas and do some real ground hopping.
Previous podcast, we jumped all around Europe. We traveled to so many different countries, but we're going your bread and butter. We're back in England today. We had a certain topic. We're going to have to explain that topic, I think, to some fans. It's really an interesting topic, but maybe some people don't know about it. So, and you've accomplished this, doing the 92.
Right.
Explain to our listeners what the 92 is, how you accomplished it, how long. Give us a little bit of a brief history.
Sure. So the English Football League structure is, you can think of it as a pyramid with the Premier League at the top. And then the next three levels down are called the Football League, and that's the Championship, League One, and League Two. So it's kind of weird. The second tier is called the Championship, but it's the first tier of the Football League. And then after that, you get into the National League at tier 5, and then at tier 6 there's two divisions, regional divisions of the National League. So in the top 4 divisions, Premier League plus Football League, there are 92 slots. So at any given time there are 92 clubs in those 4 divisions, 20 in the Premier League, 72 in the Football League. And to do the 92 means that you have been to at least one game at every club currently in the 92. And there's sort of a club. There is a 92 club, but it seems to be extremely unofficial and not organized. I'm not even sure it actually exists. People just refer to the 92 club. And and I finished it. My last game was back in September at Plymouth Argyle. And I've already done a couple of videos. We can put links in here to just like showing pictures and video clips from all the games that it took me to finish the 92. It took me 100 games over the course of about 9 years, and starting at Arsenal, ending at Plymouth Argyle, and going all up and down the country in between. and we don't know because there's no official role of the club or anything, but I may well be the only American who's ever done it.
Yep.
So I've been telling people that anyway.
Yeah, well, you have to. I mean, that's just a great accomplishment. I mean, you've seen so many games, been to so many clubs. So today we were going to sit down with you, pick your brain a little bit, kind of stuff you learned during this journey. And like you said, 9 years, that was a long journey.
Yeah, and I did not know when I started out that that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
I just went to a game at Arsenal because a friend of mine took me to a game at Arsenal. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I started going to other games, and I just really enjoyed it, decided to write a book that eventually led to this entire business that we have. But along the way, I found out that there is a 92 and that people do it. And so the first thing I've learned in doing the 92 is the age-old lesson that any perfectly reasonable hobby can turn into a collection, which turns into an obsession and leads you to do bizarre, strange things. So, and encounter other people doing bizarre, strange things. And some of the travel itineraries that I have put together seem reasonable to me. Like, why wouldn't you go to a game up in the northeast of England and then get up the next morning and take a 4-hour train for a 3:00 game in Yorkshire, and then after that game take another train to Manchester so that the next day you can go to some other place? And English people just think that's insane. But I'm like, hey, I'm doing the 92.
So many grounds, so many teams. Are you a collector of anything when you go on your journeys?
Pin badges. I think you can see those. Yep. And this is another thing you run into among the goofy 92 crowd. It's like, I kind of joke about it. Like, well, I've been to Barnet now twice, and they never have any pin badges. So I haven't really been to Barnet. Like, there's no Barnet badge there. So I'm screwed. Pin badges. I occasionally collect scarves, but scarves cost more, and I try to travel with one piece of luggage. Your average pin badge is 3 pounds, and there's been a couple that I went to the club and they didn't have a pin badge, but then you go to another club and somebody's got his huge collection of pin badges, and so you can go and like buy a whatever badge from a place that you were at, but they didn't have badges, so you go get a badge. And I think people trade them, and
Mm-hmm.
there are levels of obsession to this thing that I could never begin to describe to you. But yes, I do enjoy a good pin badge, and I'm still missing a few.
Okay.
So.
Have you, along your journey, have you ever met anybody else doing the 92, or have you bragged about doing the 92 while you've been over there?
I don't really brag about it, but what will often happen is people hear my American accent and assume that I'm over there to see Manchester United, or Arsenal. In fact, it used to be at customs at Heathrow. It was one of my favorite parts of every trip was talking to the customs guy, because they'd say, "Why are you coming?" And I would say, "To watch football." And they would say, "Don't you mean soccer?" And I'd be like, "Whatever. I'm off the plane here now. I say football." And then they'll say, "Oh, so who are you here to see?" And I'd be like, let's see, this trip, it's Notts County, Lincoln City, Stockport County, and I'm trying to get out to Grimsby Town because they're playing Scunthorpe, and that's a rivalry. And they look at me and go, "Wow, like, like you actually know what you're talking about," or often I'm talking to English people, and I, they say, "Why are you going to," I'm trying to think of some obscure Preston North End, and I say, "Because they're in the 92." And they say, "Oh, are you doing the 92? Yes. How many have you done?" And I'll be like, 87. And I'm like, "What?" I've been to more than most of them have, because they have lives and families and jobs and stuff. And they have a proper perspective on life. I'm on the train in the morning to try to get out to Morecambe, So yeah, you do run into them. And often we kind of have a look about us, like the kind of middle-aged guy standing there by himself, looking around, taking pictures, like, "I think I know why you're here." And often early in the year, like if Chesterfield go up, I don't think they've ever been in the football league. And I saw this at Sutton United when they came up for the first time ever. Their first few home games are like bigger crowds than usual. And part of it, I'm convinced, is all the 92 crowd showing up, trying to get that done, So watch early Chesterfield games next year.
Okay.
Bunch of middle-aged randos hanging around taking pictures and talking to each other,
That's kind of interesting. Obviously, Groundhopper Soccer Guides, you help a lot of people secure those tickets, get them to the grounds. But you yourself, you got to be a customer. Have you ever had an issue trying to get tickets, or have you been turned away at a ground, or any good stories about yourself getting those tickets?
Sometimes the tickets are hard to get, because often if I'm going to go all the way to Grimsby, which by the way is about a 3 or 4 hour train ride east of Manchester, out on the coast of Yorkshire or Lincolnshire. I may start another fight there. It's way out there. And I looked it up and found out they were playing Scunthorpe, and that's a rivalry. So that's the game I want to, if I'm going out there, I might as well go when it's a big game, So that makes the tickets tough, because that's going to be the biggest crowd of the year. So in that particular case, I managed to get one. But every now and then, like I was at a Sheffield derby, Sheffield United at Sheffield Wednesday. And, somehow I managed to get a ticket from Sheffield Wednesday like the day before the game. I'm still not exactly sure how that happened. The one time I ever just could not find a ticket was the previous time that Bournemouth were up in the Premier League, and they had a Friday night cup game. I think it was against Brighton, and I didn't have a ticket, and I needed to go, and I just went down to Bournemouth and thought, you know what, I'll just go down there, and certainly I can find a ticket. And I got off the train and started talking to everybody, like the train guy, the coffee shop person, everybody. And I mentioned it at the hotel, like, "Do you know anybody that's got a ticket?" And they the next time I went down the lobby, they said, "When they changed the game to Friday, we got a guy who works in the kitchen. He's got season tickets. He can't make it." And I bought that guy's ticket and went to the game. So it's the one time I ever had to do that, But most of the time, it's really not a problem getting a ticket to, Harrogate Town. It's not a big deal.
And I know you've explained it to your clients, but there's no StubHub over there. There's no scalpers over there. It's a lot different than here in the US, isn't it?
It's more illegal, being a tout, as they call it. We call it scalpers. They call it touts. So it's a more dodgy market, but honestly, you get outside the Premier League, and even within the Premier League, sometimes, games don't really sell out every time. I mean, when Sheffield United first come up, from the championship, their games really sell out. But then like this year, they're struggling and they're clearly going back down, and there's hundreds of empty seats at every game. So you can get in there. And below that, you get down to the championship. It's pretty rare. I mean, Leeds is a special case, but otherwise tickets are easy. The real challenge is making the most of your time. If you really want to do the 92, like, all right, I'm going for 10 days, and you get down League One, League Two, they all play Saturday at 3. So you really can only get one game per weekend. If it's a rivalry or if anything happens to change the game to Sunday, that's when you find yourself, Saturday in Exeter, 2 hours west of London, and then Sunday in Norwich, 2 hours east of London, because they're playing Ipswich Town and they moved it to Sunday, So that's when you get the strange looks,
Have you ever gotten the chance, or have ever wanted to, sat in the visitor section? Has it all been the home stands?
Yep. That is another way to do it sometimes, is to go into the visitor section. When I first started going to games, I thought I was going to be a Fulham supporter. And I still have a fondness for Fulham, but I'm not really married to any club over there. So yeah, my first trip to Sheffield United and my first trip to Nottingham Forest were both with the Fulham supporters. So, and in neither of those cases were tickets difficult. I just thought it'd be fun to go. It's a fun thing to do sometimes. Just why not go sit with the away people? Yeah. So.
Some good stories. Gonna get you out of here on this. Now, I've worked with you for a little while. You have Excel sheets. You have documented your travels. You have the dates. You have the scores. You have the locations. Any idea how much money you have spent on tickets?
No, I try not to think about that. No, couldn't tell you. The tickets themselves outside of the Premier League are not that much. I can remember one time going to Bristol Rovers, and I just walked up to the turnstile, handed the guy a 10-pound note, and went and stood on the terrace. It's not, it's the train tickets and the hotels and the meals and all that stuff. And no, let's just move on from that subject.
Okay.
It's research, I got to do my research. We don't sell tickets at, Scunthorpe, but people want to know about it, I think.
Well, that's you brought up a great point. Groundhopper Soccer Guides, you guys are trying to get people to the ground, like I said, but you're also there. You get some of these tickets. You get to go to the boxes and you get to see, the pregame stuff. How exciting is that you've been there? Your clients, they say they have a question, you can answer it pretty easily sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what we are. And it started out as a book idea. And that's really where finishing the 92 came around. I was like, well, let's just do a book about the 92. And so therefore I need to go to all 92. So yeah, a lot of people sell tickets. The tickets we sell are all guaranteed and legitimate, but also we've been there. And sometimes the people we're buying the tickets from have not been there. So I can tell you that across the street from Turf Moor, the home of Burnley, there's a pub called the Royal Dyche, named for their former manager, Sean Dyche. So what pub to go to? Where's a good fish and chips? What else to do in town? We know all this stuff because I've been there and I've done it. And the other thing is, people will say, we're in Manchester for the derby with City and United, and that's on Sunday. Where can we go on Saturday for a game? And I'm like, there's 10 clubs within an hour train ride of Manchester. I've been to all of them. And if I happen to notice that Preston North End's playing Blackpool, that's a derby. You want to get out there. So yeah, that kind of knowledge is, I enjoy gathering the knowledge. I enjoy the research, but I also really enjoy sharing it with people. That's why I wrote the book. That's why we have the consulting services that we have. That's why we answer all your questions. We combine all of that with the tickets.
And also, you'll see it scrolling, but your website, you've been to all these grounds, but there are so many stories. There's so many pictures, so many details about everything. And I love just going around on websites and reading a bunch of stuff. So Groundhopper Soccer Guides, if you're into English football, you can read about any club over there.
Well, yeah. If I've been there, there's content on there about it, and often some videos and everything. So look around on our YouTube channel, and everything that is in the book, which you can buy on Amazon, by the way, Groundhopper Guide to Soccer in England. Everything that's in the book is also on the website if you are what we call an Ultras member, which costs $30 a year. But if you buy consulting or tickets from us, then you get access to all of that content. You can download the actual book. You can see all of the same content on the website, on the club profiles, etc. And we have a newsletter every week. And like in the latest one, Groundhopper Carter, one of our staff, went on a trip the kind of trip I used to go on. He went to 7 games in 10 days up and down the country. So he's got a report in the latest newsletter. So traveling, going to games is our passion, and helping other people do the same thing. So we just try to provide informal, informational and educational content and help you get to the game. That's literally why we exist.
Paul, I mean, it's a fun podcast. This was a fun episode. I mean, a lot of people might not realize what the 92 is, but once you explain it and think about it, you're like, you're hopping around England, going to games. It's pretty simple, but it sounds really fun.
Yeah, it can be.
Maybe a little stressful for you too.
A little stressful. It can also be quite cold. You could learn to appreciate a good cup of Bovril and some hot chips, you know. Yeah, no, it is fun. I mean, you get down into the League One and League Two, and you really are talking about community clubs that have been there for generations. I mean, there's no other tourists there. You know, nobody's there because Accrington Stanley is flying high and making a run in the FA Cup. They're out there because they live in the area and their dads went there and their granddads went there, and that's what they do. And if you learn something about that club and go stand on those terraces and hang out with those people, you're having a genuine local connected cultural experience that is not, you know, all for Arsenal's a great place to go. But I always tell people, like, we make our living sending people to Arsenal, but I really get excited if somebody goes to Accrington Stanley. Or Stockport County, or so many others. I can't even remember them all at the moment.
I think a lot of people are Googling what some of those names are. You just ran off right there.
And that's the great thing about like the Wrexham TV show. I have complicated thoughts and feelings about the Wrexham television program, which you can find a blog post on our website about. But it introduces people to the world that I'm talking about, you know, and before those Hollywood owners came along, Wrexham been playing on the same field behind the same pub for 150 years. And that is just something that is remarkable. So to learn something about that and go stand in those stadiums with those people, that's proper football experience.
Nice. A fun episode. I feel like we're just diving into the 92. I feel like there's going to be so much more content here that we could cover, picking your brains, getting those stories. This was a fun start to the 92, explaining it to fans, and hopefully there's someone out there who just wants to start that 92 as well. So Paul, they got to get you. They got to hit you guys up.
Yeah. Get the book, figure out where you want to go. And we'll tell you everything you need to know to have a good, fun experience at some place that at this moment you've never heard of. So
we have to thank everybody for watching us today on the Around the Grounds podcast. A very fun episode, a deep dive into the 92, a lot more content to come. Make sure you check out groundhopperguides.com for all your soccer resources, and hopefully Groundhopper Guides can get you to the grounds.